It is through this lens of addressing both climate and addressing poverty that we need to assess the current state of green employment and identify the challenges to growing them. The first challenge is, how do we scale them up? Green jobs are expanding, but it is not fast enough to meet these two global challenges. By and large, renewable energy, efficient vehicles, green buildings, public transit, sustainable forestry management, and the list that Michael talked about, these are still niche markets, and they account for very small shares of the total market volumes. We're talking about less than 5%, and in most cases it's much less, and in most countries it's very low. In addition, we have seen a relatively limited progress in greening of the economy and the creation of green jobs when you compare it to the expanding labor market. The labor market is expanding by tens of millions of workers each year. And for 2008, the ILO estimates there will be 40 million new jobs, most of which will not be in the green economy. The second major challenge or major question we ask ourselves is, how do we distribute these jobs globally? In order to meet our stated GHG reduction goals, we need to green all aspects of our economy. However, the vast majority of the jobs discussed in the report are concentrated in a small handful of countries, mainly the European Union, the United States, Japan, and some developed countries, or some developing countries like China, India, and Brazil. The top 5 countries, mostly in the developed world, control 72% of global wind capacity. Germany, Denmark, and Spain are leading the way. For PV solar installations that are on the grid, Japan and Germany, again, account for 87%. In solar hot water, China has 65%. And in fuel ethanol, the US and Brazil hold 90% of global output. Another startling fact is that 1 out of 3 of all solar panels and all wind turbines are made in Germany. With few exceptions, large parts of the developing world are almost completely excluded from the green economy. And often when you do see large numbers, like we talk about recycling and that there's 10 million jobs in China, these jobs are often in the informal sector, and they're often poorly paid. They could not be considered decent. You also see large numbers in biofuels production as well in Brazil. But again, the same thing holds true. The point about the distribution of jobs is underscored if you take a look at the investment in the green economy. In 2006, 82% of global renewables investment was in the OECD countries, with European and the United States taking 3/4 of the investment. China had 7%, India 4%, Latin America and the rest of the developing world each had 3%, or 3% for Latin America and 3% for all of the rest of the countries. For the most part, these green jobs are not reaching those who need it the most, the 80% of the world's workforce that are located in developing countries. Whereas jobs in technology, development, and manufacturing are still limited to a handful of countries, and we project that it will probably remain so, jobs in installations, operating and maintaining renewable energy systems, and weatherization of buildings could become green jobs in a far broader set of countries. We already see promising solar initiatives that can be found in countries like Bangladesh or Kenya. Alternative energy and energy efficiency projects in developing countries will need to be scaled up dramatically, and will need to find a funding mechanism in order to do so.